Okay, we are live and checking to see how much of a delay there is here. About 10 seconds like always. So anyway, I'm gonna let my computer get started up here. So I can actually look at the notes that I have here about the music. Oh, that's cool. The battery's almost dead, so that's fun. Not really sure why that is. It was plugged in earlier, but I guess whatever. Okay, so a bit of a false start here, but that's okay. We'll live with it. Yeah. So I got the Bandcamp thing kind of figured out. So this week we're gonna talk about some of the electronic albums I did not discuss last week. And I think total we've got what, 5, 10, 15, we've got about 19 this week. So it is going to be a little bit on the longer side. And yeah, hopefully does everything sound okay? I hope it does. I'm just going to get everything set up here. And this is like really close to my face, I feel like. There we go. That feels a little bit more natural. Okay. Sorry, I'm fumbling here. I finished eating a bit later than I normally do. So, but yeah. So I'll go ahead and put the screen up here. Oh, and then also I had a comment last week. Well, the only comment I had last week after the video went up, after the live section. I have a fellow, End of Story, I believe is his handle. He had a specific question regarding how to find music and stuff like that. I'm going to, at the end of the stream here, once I'm through all the music, I'll talk a little bit about how I find all of this stuff. Long story short, it's not an algorithm. It's a lot of detective work, but okay. Let me go ahead and get us in here. So that should be good. All right. So up first, we're going to have some Bandcamp releases. There are 3 of them, and they are all in the electronic section. I guess I should have mentioned that as well. We're going to start out with electronic music this week. Then we're going to go to rock and metal, pop and indie, and we are going to finish with rap and hip hop, actually. It has been a while since that happened, but so first up we have, God help me with the pronunciation, Millie Greywidagel, and the EP here is Lost Divinity, kind of using basically a summary of her summary, or his summary. It's a short trip into a magical cyberpunk land, which honestly does not seem like it should work, but the tracks on the one have a light and airy side, which creates the fantasy atmosphere. But then there's an incessant D&B, like the drum and bass is just kind of driving, a little bit like Drexia, to make you feel a little bit more like you're in Blade Runner with fairies or something. Or a Super Nintendo video game, but anyway, all of it's good. So let's... Now, I was assuming that this was going to work, so I'm going to feel a bit weird if it doesn't. Okay. Bass, Drexia, Detroit techno sound, but this, a little bit of an airier, lights, fantasy aspect to it as well. And then Underwater Jungle Beats is even more straight up Drexia. So yeah, that's the Lost Divinity EP by Millie, Greywidagel, or Greywidagel. Just a nice little bit of some electronic music. We haven't had too much of it lately. And actually, it was supposed to be from last week, so... Anyway. Moving along, we have the Untitled Volume 1 here by Raw Takes. This is actually a massive release. There are 30 tracks on here, but they're all quite short. So this is just an eclectic little collection of, well, not little, but an eclectic collection of lo-fi beats that Raw Takes had just put together but never done anything with for over the last decade. So these just sort of half-formed ideas and sketches out. Some of them are barely fleshed out. You can see some of them are like 59 seconds long. Others are full-on jams, right? 3 minutes, 3:14, 5:49. Some of them are basically songs just waiting for a vocal track, perhaps, or some other missing element. The 30 tracks here, it does make for a bit of a longer listen, but because there are so many different ideas on this album, on the Untitled Volume 1, honestly, you'll kind of lose track of it. It hops around enough. It's quite fun to listen to. It always is just bouncing back and forth, like stream of consciousness. And it's interesting, too, because sometimes you'll think that it has finished and that somehow something else has just automatically started playing. But nope, it's just like a completely different idea that Raw Takes has put out there. So I'm just literally going to jump around at random because they are literally all untitled. So let's see what we find here so you can get the idea. So a little jazzier, definitely lo-fi. This is the most lo-fi beats you can study to that you could possibly have. There were a lot of vocal samples from what I remember. Definitely more on the laid back side though, which might come in the lo-fi genre. But this is more, I don't know, soundtrack from a 1960s, 1970s style film. Something that just like, I'm not even sure what this is, but so yeah, right, there are 30 tracks here. Like I said, they ping pong around between all of these different genres, but they're all well done, and it's the type of music, or it's the type of album that you might put on, well, honestly, yeah, to get some work done. It's not too demanding of you, but it's also engaging. So that is Untitled Volume 1 from Raw Takes. All right. This was actually going to be my top pick for the electronic genre last week, but unfortunately it got bumped down. But I do want to really highlight this. This is the Kayron and Panorama channel. It's a duo here. No One Rides for Free is the EP. It is electronic music for a Western, and I would love to see in the near future a Western that goes into, like, uses electronic music. I don't know exactly how it worked, but it's a great idea, and it's honestly a space that deserves being explored. That's the reason I was like so in love with this. It's only 2 tracks, but it's 15 minutes long together, and I love the description. They say in a windswept frontier town, perched at the edge of a barren desert, there's a ramshackle saloon with doors that groan like an old, tired horse. Locals swear the whiskey's cheap, but the true price runs deeper than any pile of coins. Some whisper of a card shark who's never lost and a sheriff who vanished without a trace one moonlit night. One evening, 2 friends arrived, dusty from the road, pockets nearly empty, yet hope burned bright in their eyes. As twilight settled in, even the tumbleweeds seemed to pause, waiting to see if they would toss their fate on a single roll of the dice. It's fantastic. It's like the atmosphere, the description, everything is great. Honestly, of the 2 tracks, Cold Trail at Sundown is hands down. No! Okay, it's working. Never mind. I preemptively screamed. I don't know if I'm going to be able to jump around in the track, though. I might be able to. Yeah, okay. I've listened to it quite a bit, so I'm just going to jump in. Hear the beat, right? Imagine a horse galloping through the southwestern landscape. Like those snares. Let me get the guitar line in here. Vibe thrown in there. The tracks, being as long as they are, have so much time to twist and transform and mutate into all sorts of different shapes, but the Western vibe stays there throughout the whole experience. Feels like it could be a Western, but it also feels... It's like if Trent Reznor did the soundtrack for a Western. And I, like, coming from me, for the Kayron and the Panorama channel, that's a huge compliment. I want more of this. I didn't know this was something I needed, this type of music. Spaghetti Western, electronic spaghetti Western, like... post-industrial electronic spaghetti Western soundtrack. It's fantastic. I love it. So, and then obviously this is riding off into the sunset, but yeah, this honestly fantastic. Even though it's just 2 tracks, I really hope there's more of this coming. If not from these 2, then I hope somebody else picks up this idea and runs with it. But yeah, No One Rides for Free is the name of the EP, I'm going to call it, even though it's just 2 tracks. And that's the Kayron and Panorama channel. These 2 teamed up, 2 producers here. So, all right. And then the final pick for electronic music this week goes to Natasha Bai with Go Hug Yourself. That's her album. It is dance, house, techno, it's electronic music. It most heavily recalls the Euro techno genre of the late 90s, early 2000s, though there are definitely songs that have leanings to more modern techno sounds. Obviously, it's 2025. That's unavoidable. I saw it described on the channel Approve as, quote, that it, quote, left the impression of a complete and logical DJ set to which it's a joy to groove and party or to turn it on as background to some type of energetic activity, especially at night, which I think sums it up perfectly. It does have a flow and a rhythm and an energy to it, as though this is something that somebody could have like put together during a live set. And for electronic music, especially for something that's more geared towards like that late 90s, early 2000s techno sound, that is an accomplishment. So I'm going to jump right into the middle of it. So I am on a VPN, so there is going to be a bit of delay with the tracks. I forgot.
Снова простыла, снова одна во сне.
probably personally my favorite, but this one right here is the lead single off of it. And I mean, I get why it gets the love it does. To really drive the point home. Really? I didn't have this problem earlier when I tested it out. So. I mean, if this sound has a place in your heart, then this is fantastic. So yeah, that's the album Go Hug Yourself by Natasha Bai, which, I mean, for this week, is the best electronic album. Grant is the only electronic album I actually listened to this week. The other three were from last week, but I'm going to put it all together as such. Okay, moving on to rock and metal. We open up with Три дня тьмы, the EP by MINVODY. The band describes itself as a hybrid of indie-tronica and post-noise punk with loud guitars, synths, and drum machines, which is kind of nonsensical, but it's got a darker vibe for most of it. Lyrics can at times feel stream of consciousness or spoken word, but it does gel. It gels well with the style of music, so you'll get it. It's not a bad listen. It's definitely, like, there's a reason I'm opening the section with it, but it's definitely has moments, and the group has put out a number of EPs now, so I think their sound is coalescing. A darker sound, right? There's definitely, but it's not all like that. It's definitely more traditional modern rock sounds here. The drum machines become quite obvious, which I think is something that the band needs to deal with, because a live drummer would really help them a lot. And there is a live drummer over here. Practice. sometimes this feels a little bit like this sort of Russian rock, Russian punk sound there, but not super, not super strong in that regard. And then final taste here.
Шаг назад с попыткой все вернуть. Хочешь повтора, но ты стоптал тот путь.
So, yeah, the EP is Три дня тьмы. The group is МИНВОДЫ. I feel like it's a group that's close to finding their sound, and I think that when they do finally get everything figured out, it will be quite good. It's still quite rough around the edges, but it's worth a listen. If you enjoy rock music and want to hear what's going on in Russia. Anyway, moving on though. Oh yes, another EP. Пожизненный абонемент. Let me try that again. Пожизненный абонемент в парк развлечения. And the group is Moon Girl Messiah, which is a lifetime pass to an amusement park. We have ridiculous band name, ridiculous album name, and ridiculous song name. So check, check, check. Hard on the sleeve lyrics about growing up, having trouble communicating, feeling strange from life. Check, check, check. Like that, we're in Midwest emo territory. And the music is right there with all the weebly weebly. So the last check right there. It's a nice little release though from the town city Zarechny in the Yekaterinburg region. So yeah, like just so you know, the song titles translate to dog thief on a market in the Moscow region, the most usual Tuesday, and cherry Coca-Cola, kitties, and a hate of mosquitoes. Like, it's Midwest. Oh, and the album artwork too, right? Like, it's good. I mean, listen to more Midwest emo this year than probably all the other years of my existence prior. Not that I didn't like it, but I understand. So yeah, you get the idea. That is Moon Girl Messiah, and the EP is Пожизненный абонемент в парк развлечений. It's a lot easier after I've said it once. So okay, moving on. We have the Gorye EP, and the group's name is Gorye, but just written with Latin letters instead of Cyrillic ones. So it seems a little odd to describe this as a combination of metalcore and hardcore, since the former actually came from the latter, but over time they've drifted apart. And these three tracks here, in my opinion, are kind of an attempt to merge those two modern sounds back into something new. Right? So you have, like kind of, they continued their respective evolutions, and now we're going to merge this into something heavy as. Honestly, though, the vocals, though, got to talk about the vocals. Definitely not my thing. It's a bit like the Lumarose situation from last week. It's a guy's voice, can't do much about it, but musically, though, yeah, slams. title track on the self-titled EP. Yeah, I love it when they do that. Just name everything after yourself. I guess whatever. It's fine. Yeah. So yeah, very heavy, very hardcore with the metalcore things going on in there as well. Again, the vocals are not really for me, but I can look past it. Again, it's not something because of that issue that I feel really strongly about in terms of something I look forward to returning to, but it does slap. And yeah, so the EP Gorye by the group Gorye. Moving on, we are actually almost into post-rock territory. It's not quite post-rock, but this is an album of largely instrumental music, and it was born out of one guy. I'm just going to take his text about it. It's dedicated to the taciturn forests, thousand-year cliffs, and the wayward winds, which took me in on the cold shores of Lake Ladaga. I honestly didn't pay any attention to the lyrics, though the lines that did manage to snag my attention seemed full of questioning and longing and desolation, which feels appropriate for Lake Ladaga. For those of you who don't know, let me open a map. Lake Ladaga is the really big, while that's loading, it's the very big lake to the north of St. Petersburg. Holy Christ, why is this so slow? I know it's a VPN thing, but Jesus H. All right, if that doesn't load in a second, then to hell with it. Yeah, the music is just very meditative. It's like how I imagine the fall and winter on the lakeside would be, when the tourists from Petersburg and Moscow have left and you're just alone with your thoughts and the endless expanse of nature and time. So yeah, to hell with that. Yeah, so let's just jump into it. The album is Gimn, which is like anthem. And the artist is S.S.V.B. S.S.V.B. I don't really know what he wants to say with that, but let's just jump into it. Oh, this is going to take us... Oh, that loaded quite quickly. helps a lot with that effect as well, that atmosphere. Meditative, right? It feels just like the type of thing that you turn on to reflect on life, the universe, and everything. Like I said, I honestly thought this was a post-rock album when I first got into it. At times throughout it, I forgot the direction of the lyrics because, again, to go back to that idea of the guy on the lake, it's easy to lose the individual here in, like, the mass of everything. So, again, I mean, like, just hopping around so you get the idea. So this is very song, like, So, yeah, I think by now you have the idea. That is Gimn, Anthem by S.S.V.B. Again, I don't know. It's just a nice, reflective, borderline post-rock album where the vocals kind of feel welcome at times. But moving on, we have Defekt EP by Sylphina Angel, or Sylphina Angel. I'm not sure how they want to say it. Now, normally I try to keep the EPs all together, but I did feel like this one deserved a little bit of attention. And I don't think I've actually mentioned a band from Rostov-na-Don before, at least this year, obviously. So I'm happy to do it with one of this caliber. We got metalcore with deathcore vocals. And most importantly, if you've been watching the channel and the music stuff here, you know very well that we love Saint Chino and the glorious Deftones here, as well as all of the younger, new folks who are making music. It's got that floating, spacious sound mixed in. And that's very present here. Vocals and guitar make you imagine like a dark club show with a pit full of sweaty, pimply teenage boys. But then you've got these reverb-drenched guitars and some synths, and then another vocal track just kind of reaching for the stratosphere behind everything. You can imagine someone swaying around with their hands in the air. I've honestly ignored Sleep Token for as long as they've existed, even though I know they're like super huge now. So maybe this is what they do. I have no idea. If anyone knows, please inform me. I honestly don't care that much. If this group can put up an LP with the same level of quality and energy, then I'm in 100%. So let's just get into it. Also, the album artwork does feel like something that is maybe Deftones adjacent. So it would be nice if the song started to play, I know.
Ноги разбросаны во все стороны. Холодное тело падает в обморок. Я черно-белым будто нарисованный. Не чувствую тепла, заботы, голода. Я не один, сам не старался не убежать серым грехом. Но видно, что точно я и сил. Только веря в это, что я прибежался ко мне. Я прибежался ко мне. Я боялся.
So definitely a heavier track. But if memory serves me correctly, the final track on the EP is going to be nothing more than classic. Defect. So yeah, the EP is Defect, and the group is Sylphina Angel out of Rostov on the Don. Great stuff. Would love to see more of it. But we got to move on to the kind of the big top album here. There's, motorcycles outside. It's motorcycle season now. Anyway, main album this week for the rock and metal category is the album Witchland by the group Swamplord. Got a lot of compound nouns. Compound nouns, I think that's what there are. It's a band from the small city of Murom, and they are giving us just a huge dollop of fat, fuzzy, sludgy riffs, as thick and oozy as the swampy lands near the Oka River where they are from. It's in English. The lyrics are all in English, although a few of the tracks are instrumental. And honestly, sometimes the singing and the lyrics are not the best, but a lot of times they actually work really well. So I will say that. To use the group's description of the album, it is a dark journey to the times of the medieval Inquisition, viscous stoner riffs, bubbling bass, and driving vocals. It's a nice, heavy release, and it honestly, realistically, could appeal to anyone who likes rock music. There's a lot of Black Sabbath DNA in here, so I'm just going to jump right into it so you can get an idea. Also, the album artwork feels like it's out of the 90s, which is appropriate. Yeah, right. So that's pretty solid. Initiation here is an instrumental track. Just ripping riffs. I mean, honestly, distortion as well. That's the point of the genre. One last one, Shadows from the Hills, we'll give a quick listen to. Once it decides to load, we'll just jump into the middle of it. If it decides to load. So. So yeah, the album is Witchland. The group is Swamplord. It is just sort of good old classic Sabbath style, fuzzy, bluesy, heavy metal. Very sludgy too. And that is, well, that's the best of the rock and metal this week. So moving on to pop and indie. We have the album, or I suppose I should say, this is, I've reconsidered my, I'm going to call it this is an EP. We got, this last track doesn't count. I'm reconsidering my album EP delineation over the last week. The EP, I'm going to call it Neoacustica, and the group is НЕМАЛАГА. From the cover art, which I'm actually going to let the track load for a second while I talk about it, but from the cover art, I expected this to be some wacky Brit rock revival music, right? Just like, look at these silly mods having fun. Woo! They're so goofy. They're having a great time. But we've got indie rock, which does have something of a Brit sound to it at times. I'll grant it that. But at its core, it's just like a regular guitar, bass, drum, vocals formula, a classic light psychedelic edge, which you can kind of hear a little bit, especially on this track. It's a relatively simplistic formula in terms of their music, and it would almost be forgettable, but I will say the guitarist has an ear for fun little elements, like this line right here, that kind of make the tracks catchy.
Чиги, смелая, большие сдвиги, успехи дела, зря тратить время.
Super, but like, just, yeah, the guitar really stands out on these tracks most of the time. And it does feel like there's definitely a heavy British element here.
Девушка Чиги, смелая, большие.
And we'll listen to another track here real fast, or a part of another track, I suppose. Yeah, there's that guitar again. Like, it's so crisp. It almost feels like it maybe belongs to a different band. It just sort of found its way into the studio.
большое сердце, сердце крокодила. Эту мощную машину жизнь мне подарила. В детстве я был добрым и тянулся к свету, даже верил в Бога, только Бога нету.
So yeah, the EP is Neoakustica, and the group is НЕМАЛАГА. Moving on, we have the album Harmony, and the artist is Glukoza. Now, this is kind of an interesting one, and it was a shocker to most people when this album came out, because the artist, Glukoza, was, for the length of her career, she made the type of Russian pop music that's kind of annoying. You immediately recognize it as Russian. It's kind of kitschy, right? And then out of the blue, she decided to change up her image into something like Arca or Grimes or FKA Twigs. And then the sound is similar to that as well. Hyper-produced, hyper-pop. I saw some people complaining, like, oh, this is dumb. It's behind the times. Like, oh, it's like 5 years. This is the sound of 5 years ago, which is like such a minor gripe. But and that might be true, but also there's lots of people who are making music that sounds like it was 5 years ago or even longer ago. That kind of is how music works. But honestly, as this being a reinvention of self, it's bold. And even if the music is not groundbreaking, I would say it's still pretty good for a genre which is not oversaturated. Like, it's a sound which there definitely are artists, and there are better artists doing it in the West for sure. But here in Russia, yeah, I can't name any of them off the top of my head. So I think that speaks for itself. Let's. So, again, it's a sound that in 2025 we've all heard probably before, but it's still not very common, again, for most people. And as Glukoza is kind of a popular name, or like a recognizable name in the Russian community, her doing music like this might make it people. And one last example. Any minute now.
Планета. Душа питала мысли, они сняли цепи. Искала в пустоте, что так меня зацепит. Там ощутила связь с собой, тонко и поверив. Рождаюсь заново, сейчас я в своей новой эре. Где-то там внутри, бессознательно горит.
You get the idea. Yeah, the album Harmony, the artist Glukoza, with a bit of a reinvention of herself. And for that hyper-produced, hyper-pop sound, it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. Up next, we are getting into the album is Без лица, бездельница. The artist is Lizа Громова. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. And when I was looking into this, I discovered that there is evidently a genre which is known as sophistopop. It has lots of polished keyboards and synths, and it results in a mellow, romantic, atmospheric type of music. So this is basically that. It's indie pop rock, and there is a lot of Brian Ferry, Roxy Music influence here. Now, there are a lot more live instruments on this album, but the sophistopop description does hold true for the most part. So, and I think you'll, if you know Brian Ferry and Roxy Music, you'll recognize that.
Что на заднем дворе закопал, что оставил. Просто на тумбочке или в чем-то сердечке. Ты так сильно всех любишь, но это дело привычки. Сразу за фонарями тьма, в ней города, за ней зима. Сжимай покрепче свой кулак, в сумерках не дремлет враг. Сразу за фонарями тьма, в ней города, за ней зима. Сжимай покрепче свой кулак, в сумерках не дремлет. За туманом пропали высотки, до заката всего полчаса. Ты такой же, как эти красотки, по нему вдвоих грустный. По Москве я теперь изнываю и хожу по другой стороне переулка, в котором венчали песню звонкою обо мне и тебе. Чтобы не было в сердце печали, молодая, танцуй на цветах. Чтобы слезы твои не скучали, по нему вдвоих грустный. Я заплачу только по...
The strings there have a bit of that sophistopop, I suppose, sound. Or it lends that atmosphere to it. I know a lot of times there's I sometimes go with 3 songs out of the middle. I do like that. That means that the what's the term?
Она лежала там,
Sequencing means that when they actually do the sequencing, they actually think about how it's
нула зелень, и плакала так, и платье мяла так, обхватив свои.
Рассвет, все пройдет, там и нет. Там, где ты, там мой дом. Посмотри, как плывут облака. Мы наверняка на них весь мир обогнем. Посмотри, как мерцает рассвет. Все пройдет, там и нет. Там, где ты, там мой дом.
Портфель, ушла коса.
So yeah, just a nice collection of indie pop rock. Very soft, very romantic and gentle. The album is Без лица, бездельница, and the artist is Lizа Громова. Okay, penultimate for the pop and indie category. We have the group Созвездие Отрезок, and I'm just going to read the phone number like it would be in Russian. +7 495 296 296 1. So I screwed up the second 296, so forgive me. But yeah, +7 495 296 2961. This is electro indie pop, and it's definitely not afraid to venture into some more adventurous and experimental territory, and that makes sense as one of the lead singers, one of the main singers of the group, is the lead singer of Divinity, whose album I absolutely loved last year. So aside from the obvious references to that group, Divinity, The other group that gets brought up again and again, or that was brought up again and again when I was, reading about this album and looking into the background, and rightfully so, is Arcade Fire. So, which again makes sense. Arcade Fire was huge like 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So it would make sense that a new wave of musicians in 2020, 2025 are leaning into that sound.
Напишу, но удалю на плече. Набью тату, не отправлю, утаю. Без фотографий твоих глаза растворю. Забивает время тупой тикток. У меня нет сил, я практически сдох. Аж кудишки отдам свой последний вздох. Сделай мне приятно, удали свой блог. Забивает время тупой тикток. Я хочу глаза прищить наискосок. Я за целый день ничего не смог.
All right. Yeah, to be sure, this album isn't perfect. There are a few tracks on here that I could do without. I don't remember off the top of my head, but all in all, it is very good. So, got a softer one here. This has more of a thud sound, I would say. That's just my take on
Меня куда-то уносит осенним светом. Спрятали люди руки свои в карман.
All right, one last track here. Matilki. Why does the third track always take the most time to load? That is the mystery right there. Second track, without just bam, right on the case. Got the Midwest emo.
Я до нельзя слаб. Мы подростки, мы всего лишь подростки. Красим ногти и тусим на заброшке. В любом месте всегда делаем фотки. Мы рыдаем, все непросто и рвутся колготки.
I think you get the idea. So yeah, the group is Созвездие Отрезок, and the album is +7 495 296 296 1. +7 495 296 296 1. So yeah, obviously, again, just as it is every week, all the links for the albums are in the description below, as well as the playlists, which I have been updating little by little. So that brings us to the top pick of the week for indie pop and indie, and the group is Dочь, and the album is Чаща. So I absolutely loved this indie group's EP last year. Забытые песни. Забытые песни. And while this is different, this is more of an indie rock sound. And last year it was more of a Baroque chamber pop thing. At least out of definitely a few of the tracks that stand out most in my memory. The change in sound is probably explained by the fact that musicians from Dictaphone, whose album I absolutely loved last week, and Bazaar, a group whose album I absolutely loved in March, musicians from those two groups took part in the recording process. And we like both of those groups here. So this new sound is reflective of that impact, but it's not just another one of those records. It's something else. From the press release to the album, we have, quote, a collection of fairy tale songs about a journey into a magical thicket. That's what Chаща means. Into a magical thicket in the forest. Gothic aesthetics and symbolic lyrics layered upon resonant guitar riffs, melancholic piano melodies, poignantly clean vocals, and elaborately harmonized choruses. The thicket is a symbol of our subconsciousness. We don't know what is hidden in its depths, but sometimes we must come face to face with what resides there. Which, yes, that is a bit pretentious. I know, but the music is good, so I'll give it a pass. So let's just jump into it here. We'll start with the title track, Chаща. And I know I'm mispronouncing the sh, whatever, so just give me a break if you know Russian. Remember the Doors album from last week? Dictaphone. You can kind of hear a little bit of that there. Or if you remember Bazaar, Santa Muerte from Defekt.
Знаешь, как только солнце растает, вечер начнется. Что-то случится, снова случится со мной. Лунный осколок тени растает. Мне всюду слышится шорох. Я здесь бывала, но не найду пути назад.
All right, let's go to the second track, which it's the second track, so it should load quickly, right? That's the rule now. That's the rule now, second track. I spoke too soon. Strokes. Is this it?
Перейти на крик, пробежаться босиком по тонкому льду.
But I feel like there's a lot, like the dictaphone.
Я прекрасно знаю, что я иду ко дну, все тонет, и я тону. Свяжут веревками, скажут, что берегу.
But then sections like this lean right into sort of more modern.
Ждать тебе долго меня на другом берегу. За ветрами, кострами, пустыми глазами вспомнишь, забудешь, что это все сон. На краю обрыва стояли часами, утешали себя чудесами, что сможем все сами.
All right, last one here, and then we'll move on to the final category.
Ночь давным-давно дала отмашку, проглотила все многоэтажки, кусая
So the album is Chаща, and the group is Dочь, Чащ. Yeah, top pick for the pop and indie category of the week. Moving on to rap and hip hop, there are 4, and we're going to get through them. The last 2 we're going to talk about more in depth. The first one is the 444 EP by Gorye, is how I'm going to say it. There's enough auto-tuning and similar effects and distortion being added to the vocals, and the beats and production are just very, very atmospheric, that this is definitely the new wave of rap, but it's the second half of that equation, the beats and the production, that atmospheric vibe, that makes this album such a nice thing, or this EP such a nice thing to listen to. Major bonus points to Gorye for being able to switch very naturally back and forth between English and Russian, to the point where you'd think he was a Western artist if you weren't paying attention and you missed his Russian verses. That in and out feel, or like that sort of in and out from one language to the other, is how it feels when like you know a language well and you just switch back and forth between them to express things. Sometimes it's easier to say something in English, sometimes it's easier to say something in Russian, and how it is here on this EP, I haven't really seen that before. Like I see other rappers do it where they like say something in English, but it's more just because it's cool to say it in English. Whereas Gorye here is just doing it because I think he just knows the language well enough where some things come out better or they sound better in English. And then when he wants to be a little bit more profound, or his flow wants to have a little bit more movement, he switches back into Russian. But so I love that aspect of it, but it's the beats and the production, which are just really good stuff. Oh, also, comparisons have been made to Hollis and like Playboy Cardi.
I can afford you anything you want. Follow it down, much I need only love. Мне никто не нужен, кроме тебя.
You just switch to Russian.
Я бегаю туда, где не найдут меня. Не понимаю, почему я вижу все это во снах. Ведь я верил в тебя, но ты навечно умерла. Run around the city, I wanna feel love.
Nice, back to English.
I can afford you anything you want. Follow it down, much I need only love. Мне никто не нужен, кроме.
And then like he switches, like he just goes right from like an English word and then just back into Russian, which is fantastic. I love that. The song's all loaded really fast here, which I appreciate.
What do you want? Come up in. What do you want? No chances. What do you want? Come up in. All of my niggas real next class. All of my niggas real next class. We gon' for the war, hear what I say. I don't really catch, yeah, I boost this. I don't really catch, yeah, I boost this. Это мое время. What do you want? Это мое время. Next class. What do you want? Come up in. What do you want? No chances. What do you want? Come up in.
So, yeah, again, you get the idea. The EP is 444. The artist is Gorye. And I'm not a huge fan of this sound. I can tell you for a fact, I listened to Jeans World by Jeans and Angel May Cry 2 by Kai Angel this last week. Just awful. Kai Angel actually was one of the high-profile releases, and there was one track that, upon repeated listens, was tolerable and like pretty good. Everything else on this like 7 or 8 track album was just atrocious. And Gerarti is doing basically their same sound. The only difference is he's doing it well. And yeah, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the new rap sound for various reasons. And I think one of them is just that most of the artists, I feels like they just, I don't know what they're, anyway, this is just very well done. And at only 6 tracks long and such a short runtime, it goes by very quickly, but it feels, for a very electronic thing, it feels very, I think it flows naturally. But all right, on to Приворот Гуманоида by Horace and Sharon, 2 artists right here. They are from the Acid House label, which is home to ATL and Zaraza, like who are 2 rappers here in Russia that I extremely love. Anyway, the team up here of Horace and Sharon, it's a team up of those 2 from the thing. And actually, I believe, yeah, Zaraza is here on one of the tracks as well. It's techno rap that is just as likely to have you bumping your head or making you want to get up and jump around and dance around, though there are plenty of tracks here with rock instrumentals as well. Lyrics are at times introspective, but sometimes pessimistic, but most of the time they're just silly. There is there's a track about expensive beer and horrible sound quality at an underground show. There's this track about mushrooms. The album art, honestly, is album art. Why is the album art not? Okay, hold up. The album art is perfect. The acid colors fit with the style of music. The artists in profile and all the seriousness, and then the alien for just the weird shit because, why not? Music can also be a chance to just play around and have fun and be a little goofy. So let's hear a little bit of that goofiness. So this is going to be more that like techno.
Только череп до скелета, годы пулями летят. И спасет бронежилет, и коль не выдумаешь саму этой жизни, смысла нет. Лучше таблеток и диет, выдумаешь саму этой жизни, смысла нет.
Лис поднял, что надо на ход ноги, но как и ты покину мир нагим. Снежинку венчает череп, до могилы это мой сигил. Думал про нас как про лимиту, мол, никому мы не сдались тут. Мол, чё захочу, то я и плиту, пока не лёг чилить под плиту. А не, забей, просто прикинь, насколько тянет статей. Содержание всех в голове идей.
This is the one about the underground show.
Пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, звук говно. Это аксиома, ой, просто повторяй за мной, если ты тут с нами заодно. Пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, звук говно. Пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, ой, пиво дорогое, звук говно.
В клубе света меньше нормы, долгий выход из гримерки, начинается перформанс. Скоро будут все в восторге, так-то не на ровном месте сформированы клише. Местный звук от металлиста, жди усладу для ушей. Да польется кровь, когда зафонит микро, низких перегруз частот. Да, вот это поворот, беспощадный наш хип-хоп, дорогущий алкоголь. Не купить, забыл пин-код, всепоглощающая боль. Мимо нот.
The lyrics are quite entertaining and funny.
Пить вот только легче мне не стало. Можно ли сказать, что я вообще живу? Что обнаружу, то и нарву. Иду на вы, уходя в траву. С ножиком в руке я хожу по лесу, улыбаясь, как Элайджа Вуд. Иронично, что в этом квесте совпали удачно, чрезвычайно. Твоя любимая игра в гляделке, моя любимая игра в молчанку. Снова закружили вертолетики, словно дикий зверь из клетки выпущен. Тетенька, какие, блять, наркотики? Просто я альтернативно мыслящий.
Мы ходили по грибы, да с тобою по грибы. Ой, люли прям по грибы, позабыв унылый быт. Как уляжемся в гробы, вырастут на нас грибы. А пока в лесу броди, попробуй их добыть. Мы ходили по грибы.
So yeah, like I said,
Мой характер
techno
эклектичнее, чем у сына Мипы. Серьезней, бро, а то на днях кому-то несерьезному порвали рот.
And this is something I think.
Каждый день я вижу много тупых людей, много тупых людей, тупых людей, тупых людей, тупых людей. Каждый день я вижу много тупых людей, много тупых людей, тупых людей, тупых людей, тупых людей. Каждый день.
But yeah, this is honestly, so the album is Приворот Гуманоида, and the two artists there are Horus and Sharon. But yeah, this like sort of techno rap is, and all of the stuff on Acid House, honestly, Zaraza, these two, Horus and Sharon, ATL, like that sound is so good. And I'm sure there are people in the States doing it well, but it's so well developed here in Russia. So I'm glad to hear it. I had not heard these artists before, and I don't know if they typically make stuff like this, but this album was a lot of fun. That brings us to the last two, and I honestly was a bit unsure of which one to go with for the first place, but I think so. J-Ro with his album Second Rule. It's a second solo release from an artist connected to the production of one of my favorite albums here in Russia, Saluki's Wild East. And I saw a lot of disappointment connected to this one, that it wasn't the same as his debut. But going into this without any prior knowledge, I love this. This is a great album. It's R&B, hip-hop in the vein of Drake, but there's not the sad boy thing. The guy has a young family. He's just like very focused on them and like kind of just loving life and working. There's a huge dose of pop ear candy hooks, and obviously there's a solid rap streak through all of it. 16 tracks on this thing. I'm counting the intro, which doesn't really count, and it's only 33 minutes long, so everything shuffles through very quickly, but all of the tracks are so well constructed, it just kind of feels like it's just tuned to perfection. There are so many good things hidden on this album. Not even hidden, it's just as you go through, just fun. Some of these tracks too you wish were longer because of the sound that they got. Like, this feels more like
Старая школа, тукнул и филки, но твой порох сегодня не горит. Слышь, Саня на горит, а это мой подмобиль. Что началось близко, это как я себе представлял в жизни. Не в моей голове в жизни. Я шли их на путь, уверен, течу. И каждый шаг желательно на себе. Не помню, хочу быть. Сколько сил на ту неделю, бэй. Это все в тело, бэй. Когда поставлю на стоп все свои загоны на счет упадок бабок или долгов. Всем скажу им вскоре факт на берегу, на том самом. Я тебя найду, любить буду пить залпом. Думать о тебе все равно. За день сменяет ночь, но ты рвешься мне помочь,
And then you bump on to the next track, which will load eventually. Maybe. More of an electronic.
Родные, поэтому мы здесь не корчимся.
All of these sounds have been different so far, but they all work, and they all flow the other sounds.
Что теперь не дружить, да научусь терять.
Oh, God damn, this is pathetic. I want to sit down and listen to this again. But this is what Saluki's Wild on East felt a lot like, where there were just all of these really just, it's like a collage of musical ideas.
Кто не знает схему, ведь она прямо в башке. Еще пару дней захлёстный, чуть не сели.
All right, two more here. This one and one more, and then we'll move on to the final. Yeah, more like a 90s hip-hop R&B. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is lifted from a track. I just can't put my finger on it. And then we get like the rap track, right?
Тикают часики, громко в деревне. Тикают часики, как у бабули. Быть в зале, как на Кремле. А что значит жить в изобилии? Задние мысли сильнее передних. Как оказалось, по жизни отшельник.
Мы едем на Майбахе вместе с агалами. Помним, как начали, помним, как мы были голыми. Вы не такие, как мы. Люди забыли, зачем они строили то, что пытались забыть. Все эти души про...
So yeah, just so many musical ideas here, just so good. And so the album is Second Rule by J-Ro. I think that's how you say it, J-Ro. Just a great album. I probably should have put the cover up, but I was switching back and forth between songs too much. It's an album that you really should just put on. You can't skip around. It just needs to play through all the way because it's sequenced so well and everything is put together so well on it. And I think that is, like, these two albums I had a hard time choosing, but the top one of the week is Accept All Cookies by Loqiemean, which this is, somebody online figured out, this is supposed to look, I just noticed Loqiemean under the desk now. Holy like that creeped the hell out of me. It's supposed to be, it's like one-to-one, Neo's office in the first Matrix before he realized he's Neo when they come to visit him. Anyway, I wonder how many people also have not noticed that he's just sitting here under the desk. Obviously, the album, yeah, motorcycles again. The album is, I guess, supposed to be focused on modern life and the digital world and all that stuff, but that is beside the point. The reason that this one won out is because it is 20 tracks. These are all full-length songs for the most part, and it just has so much more meat. But let me just I don't know how respected Loqiemean is in the rap community here. I've seen some commentary that his rhymes are fairly pedestrian, and from my listens to this album, I'm of the opinion that he's not the best wordsmith. He's not a wordsmith of the highest caliber, but this album is a chimera of rap and pop and rock, just like J-Ro's album was. But like I said, this is just a much bigger thing. Musically, it is all over the place. The text is rapped. The production and arrangement is all pop, and the energy is punk, rock and roll, all of that. I'm not even going to go into like all of the different sounds that you can find here. It's impossible. They're all used deftly. And even though the album is 20 tracks long and over an hour, it doesn't feel like it. It feels so much shorter. It just goes by so quickly. Listening to this left me feeling like the J-Ro album, but more honestly full on, like Saluki's Wild East, or even early Lil Wayne, when he was just a ball of fire and was just bouncing all over the place. Not in terms of rap quality, but in terms of just like playfulness. It's all over the place. So much going on here, so many ideas. It is a product birth of incessant music consumption, absorbed, analyzed, and recombined. And I have like 10 of these songs noted here. There's no way I'm going to go through all of them, but I'm going to hit up some of them so you can get what I'm talking about. Because it's very good.
Хочу, чтобы все было, и мне не было за это ничего обидного, платного, наверное, за беспечную кайфу. Тут заплатит тот, кто бледный, безымянный друг, погибает этот первый выпит, shout it to
The hand drums.
the dead, shout it to the dead, to the dead, to the dead, shout it to the dead, to the dead, to the dead. Кто-то подрезал за тебя фуру тяжелую дуру, ту обну ногами. Огненный камень упал на ковер из кальяна, где выгнали всю вашу пару. Кто-то погиб за меня, но мы разведены до совсем незнакомых веками. Я таких не забуду, вы дайте мне додо фанфара. Я им благодарен. Салюду муэртес, юный муэрте, старый муэрте, каждому грации, от альба вивьенде.
Alright, I'm just gonna keep shuffling because a lot of these I can just let play.
Небо вовсе не видно сигнал, только он перед себе всегда. Вся герой одинокий сектант, и его не ждут. Улицам большая не нужен герой, улицам большая не нужен герой, улицам большая не нужен герой, улицам большая не нужен герой.
That was some of the rock energy I was talking about earlier. I mean, obviously the instrumentation helps identify it, but more traditional music. Called Lava, it means to like bewitch or to curse.
Твоя личико делимая, это что-то на речке. Написано 3 года, я мой талант на парах. Первый спадал, трашь в парах. Авось, это русский вексель, авось, и не...
Alright, like 2 more. Maybe, yeah.
Я люблю свое болото. Я люблю свое болото. Выхожу на берег мото-мото. Перед тем бикини ботом. Вы знаете девиз. Я люблю свое болото. Выхожу на берег мото-мото. Перед тем бикини ботом. Вы знаете девиз.
Социализм – дерьмо. То есть уже к этому времени, в 70-х, мы были абсолютно убеждены в том, что умрем в этом топком, вонючем болоте.
Внук Стругацкого на мой концерт пофотать приходит на валуне. Он тоже...
Not to say all of the tracks go this hard. There are some that are a little bit more laid back, and there are some that are a bit different. I actually show you one that's a little bit more different here in a second.
Ты паскуды, нет таких последствий, чтобы живым ходил серый как плесень. Человек с дырочкой вместе. 21 грамм потерял, мне кто-то спёрта. Стало тяжело.
And I love it.
Ярко светишь, угодишь салют. Для таких, кто дюх не укроет сера. Посреди замеса выживает серость и небо. Серости плевать, где-то закопан. Всех порвать готов, серый шум не терпит любой тон. Он всеяден, потому...
But then there's this, which, I mean, well, this is silence right now, but... This. And it sounds dumb at first, but it works. Sounds like a man of some kind, right?
Летайте, не губить ничего, чё? Чем более, чё хочу, чё? Кто-то вывесил товары. Среди них есть наши пары, тебе модных шароваров, остальное под ключом. Чём? Книга жалоб ни почём. Чём? Тут те...
Like, that should stand out. That should feel like completely a non sequitur on this album. But it doesn't. The first time I heard it, I was a little thrown off. But then once it got moving, it was just like, no, this is fine. This makes perfect sense. It's the album equivalent of, I listen to every genre, basically. The only thing that's missing is country. But I feel like if somebody had told Loqiemean ahead of time. It's like, hey, you're missing a country track. You would have figured out a way to put one on here. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Didn't want to remove that from my recommendations. Do not like that feature because I sometimes click that button.
Опять запутался в удилах, а чтоб до тебя дойти, надо чё долго доходило. Вот он я, одинокий ярик, как маяк, сквозь моря, переломав все хребты Алтая. Доковылял еще без сил, шепчу тебе, будь моя. Время по нулям, нам больше некуда откладывать. Я так долго к тебе шел.
So, yeah. Alright, last one. It's final.
Думал, отвечу только я. Я устал, что у меня есть огромная семья, и мне надо ее кормить, еще и не сойти с ума, чтобы не нажать рейдж квит. Чтобы не нажать рейдж квит. Что ты знаешь о тоске? Тоска, когда ты веришь в спиритической доске. Завещала ярко жить, а меня напугал успех. Не хочу подыгрывать лже, мне за 30-е завис один над пропастью воржи.
So yeah, album Accept All Cookies, Loqiemean. It is speaking to life in the digital age. I suppose maybe that is how all those sounds work together. That is the internet. It's everything thrown into a blender, into a weird-ass mass that we all consume daily. And we all kind of love it for the most part. Anyway, I'm not gonna wax philosophically about it. Just a phenomenal album. This is up there. This is one of the best things out of April so far as well. So, I mean, obviously each week I've managed to find one or two albums that are really like top-notch quality, but this is up there for sure. So that is the top pick of the week. And we are going back to the camera here. So I feel like I lean over this way too much. I need to lean more. All right, I gotta move my camera over. Anyway, yeah. So I said that at the end of the stream here, I was going to talk about how I find music because I was asked about that in a comment after last week's stream, and I feel like that's fair. I don't use a specific. I was asked if I use VK Music or something along those lines, and like they have. I know on Spotify too and Yandex they have sort of playlists that are suggested for you. That's not how I do it. So what I do is I am subscribed to probably like 50 music communities on Vkontakte and probably about 20 on Telegram. And then once a day, usually in the morning when I'm kind of like getting started for the day, I will scroll through each of those communities. Like I open up all of them, and then if there are some new music that has dropped into them, I just throw it into a playlist. If I notice, if I like, I'm like, I've seen this album before. If I start to see certain things pop up again and again, or I see sometimes like a really big text written about it, and I feel like there's some emotion behind it, that bumps one of those albums further up my list. So basically, if an album is being talked about in various different communities on Vkontakte or in Telegram, or especially if I see it on Telegram and Vkontakte, unless it's the same community, then that usually bumps it further up the list. If it is a higher profile release, like for example, I mentioned I listened to Kai Angel this week because in the rap community that was a high profile release, even though I didn't really see it talked about in many places, I knew it was a big deal. Sucked, so, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I don't trust algorithms, simply because I know what algorithms have done to my feed in Facebook, to my feed in YouTube, to my feed in Twitter. I will not call it X. And in all social media. So do I trust an algorithm to feed me new and interesting music? Possibly, but most of the time it won't be actually new music. It will be just music that is new to me. And my goal here is to find like new releases. Obviously, Yandex does highlight some new releases below albums that I'm listening to, and occasionally I will click through on some of them, especially if the album artwork catches my eye, or if I notice it's an artist that I have heard of before. But yeah, for the most part, how I find the music that I then listen to then present to everyone here is basically just constantly poring over various social media groups who in turn hyperfixate on specific genres of music or specific communities within the music world here in Russia. So, like, I am a macro aggregator for all of the micro aggregators. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. That is the week. Hopefully you found something good to listen to. I always enjoy doing this simply because coming back and listening to these albums sometimes after I've had a bit of time away from them, or just one more time, either reminds me like how good they were, or it sometimes opens my eyes to like maybe I overvalued this too much. So it's always interesting for me as well on these evenings. But yeah, next week is the 30th of April, and it is the last time we will be doing this on Wednesday. So next Wednesday, I will be doing this music stream as always at 9 p.m. Moscow time. It'll be a day right before the May holidays. And then, yeah, I'll remind everybody of the new schedule once we actually get into May. But next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Moscow time for the music stream. Sunday for the news update at 9 p.m. Moscow time as well. It has been very, very warm in Moscow for the last few weeks, and I don't know if the open window, aside from the motorcycles, but the breeze is just fantastic right now. And it's supposed to rain, it's supposed to start raining tomorrow, and the temperature is supposed to start dropping down from the 70s into the 60s and then further into the 50s, which I'm actually kind of ready for. I've been wearing shorts in April, which feels not right. So I'm ready to go back to some slightly cooler weather, but that's beside the point. I hope, as I said just a minute ago, I hope you found something new and interesting to listen to. I will be back next week and later this week as well. So if you're watching this in the evening, have a good evening. If it's afternoon, have a good afternoon. If you're watching this in the future, have a good day. Until next time, I will see you when I see you. Пока-пока. I find all of this stuff, long story short, it's not an algorithm. It's a lot of detective work. But okay, let me go ahead and get us in here. So that should be good. All right. So up first, we're going to have some Bandcamp releases. There are 3 of them, and they are all in the electronic section. I guess I should